there's a letter that you can get over here in the UK. You might be able to get in the States as well, but there's a letter which you write to somebody that obviously you despise or you hate or something. The front of it has got Jesus loves you, and there's a person praying like this. You open it
Uh-huh.
up and it says everyone else thinks you're a cunt. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Washington to Westminster. My name is Matt Johnson. I host a show called The Interesting Times, which looks at the Westminster bit. And from Washington, my co-host is Andrea Bridges-Smith, who hosts a show called the Phoenix News Network. And she very much looks at the Washington. I've got to make sure I pronounce that correctly. I don't end up saying Washington or something like that, even though it could be quite close. Let's not kid ourselves in these interesting times. That's a plug for my show, by the way. Anyway, so Andrea, I guess we can't not talk about what happened in the Oval Office on Friday. But before we get to that, shall we talk about well, let's be honest, rather tame prequel to the main event, Starmer's meeting with the Trumper?
Yeah, honestly, there were so many other things that have happened that Starmer's visit was a little bit of a blip on the radar over here. So we didn't hear much about it. Seems like it went all right, unlike some other meetings that we won't name. I'm curious, how did Starmer pull this off? Did he show up with like a bucket of fried chicken or something? What was the strategy there?
Well, now it's interesting that you say that because there was a point, I don't know if you've actually watched the video, but there was a point where Starmer reached into his pocket and I thought, oh, careful, you know what I mean? So, it reached into his pocket and I thought to myself, Mr. President, you've been served. And that's like, what's it, number 35 or whatever it is. That would have been kind of cool, wouldn't it? He did a subpoena. So no, I mean, basically, everybody is talking about how he did give him a letter from the king.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
And we know
nice of him.
you guys love all that sort of stuff, don't you? It's just like, yes, he does live in a very big castle. Oh, wow, honey, look, from the king. So, of course, everybody was talking about how well the meeting went. And to be fair, it was an absolute lesson on diplomacy from Starmer, it has to be said. I mean, he's clearly built for this.
Yeah, I actually read a news headline yesterday that said, Keir Starmer, unlikely leader of the free world. And I suppose that would make Trump leader of the not free world. But, gotta give props to Starmer, way to take the reins on that whole running the free world thing.
Well, yeah, you got to fight it out with Putin, but that's never going to happen unless they mean like a play wrestle.
Yeah.
Anyway, enough of that. However, there was a point where Starmer looked genuinely angry, as I think, more angry than I think I've seen him. But you really have to be a Brit to have spotted it.
Okay. I have to admit, I find it hard to picture Keir Starmer angry. Flummoxed seems like very much in his wheelhouse, but angry, any British person really being angry, except not at a soccer game, is hard to imagine. His upper lip seems stiffer than J.D. Vance's little soldier next to a sumptuous chaise. So,
Well,
what made him
interestingly,
so angry?
yeah, interestingly, it was when Vance made the crack about not having freedom of speech in the UK and how that affects American companies and by extension, American citizens. I mean, it's quite the stretch there from Jimmy D.
Okay, as you guys would say, bloody hell, what is he on about?
You say it all the time.
Yeah, I can tell you that the Russian lack of free speech is certainly not affecting the well-being of American companies, although it is definitely having some effect on our foreign policy.
Yeah, yes, a fair bit of that. Now, to be fair to him, Starmer responded straight away and, in fact, drove home the point. We have free speech, we've had it for hundreds of years, very proud of that fact. And again, you may not have spotted it because, believe me, I could tell he was furious. The glasses did not a lot to hide the glare that he gave the couch shagger. And there was a slight reddening of the skin. See, furious.
You're right. I think you do have to be a Brit to see him really pop off on the rage there. Or maybe our perspective is just a little bit skewed because Donald Trump is usually yelling
Yeah.
about something. After kind of seeing how he treated Zelensky, this seemed rather tame in comparison.
Well, there was a look. In fact, I spotted it behind the glasses where he sat back. I mean, it started off when somebody asked the question, blah, 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 mentioned, and Trump never one for sort of sticking up for anybody, just basically said, well, you got the guy here, why don't you ask him, Vance, just straight throw JD Vance under the bus, as it were. And JD Vance said, look, all I said was blah, blah, but it was once Trump said, why didn't you ask him, Starmer leaned forward like this, and there was and again, even after he made the point about blah, 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 pre-speech, he sat back and just the glare, and it's not even a glare. I don't think you'd even count it as a glare, but the look. Now, every Brit knows that look, and they know that look as there's going to be a fight. You know what I mean? It's going to be a fight. It's just the wrong word now, and somebody's going, you know what I mean? It's going to be, the whole thing's going to go Jerry Springer.
Well, I'm pleased that it didn't go that way. I'm concerned that another meeting with Zelensky might go that way, just full on, taking off earrings and shoes and just let's go. But
yeah. To be fair, Starmer's had Musk obviously stirring up shit in our country, talking about, civil war, that sort of thing. Now, Musk himself isn't allowed to not wear a suit around the White House, or as I think it's only fair to call it, since Trump and Vance have moved in, the shite house. So they've had to try to sit down with Starmer and tell him how to run this country. It's a little bit of a cheat for a man that's been in the job for just over a month, right?
Exactly. And as far as Elon Musk goes, I am counting the minutes until that man fucks off to Mars. Honestly, I am considering giving up on comedy entirely and becoming a rocket scientist so that I can build him the vessel myself. I think I would probably look okay in a lab coat, but do you think I would have to know more about math than I currently know about dead French poets? Because that might be a little bit of a sticking point.
Apollinaire 13, perhaps?
That's a very, very good dead French poet joke, Matt.
There we go.
Well done. Well done.
So anyway, Andrea, what did you make of the tag team from, Vance and Trump on Zelensky? I mean, did you watch it? I must admit, I genuinely, I was looking through fingers, as it were, on that one.
Yeah, I don't know. I found it very comforting.
Really?
Yeah, because as it turns out, foreign policy can be undone extremely rapidly. We talk about these years of precedents and you can just wave them away. I mean, a few months ago, Ukraine had our full support. And now Elon is talking about us leaving NATO. We're best friends with North Korea and Russia all of a sudden. In a few more months, I can only assume that we'll be at war with the Maldives. And a few months after that, Finland will probably nuke us. Everything is temporary, including this.
Oh, well, yeah, be careful. It's that sort of heresy that will get you thrown into an American gulag in the land of the free speech.
Honestly, I'm surprised I haven't been shipped off to Guantanamo already. I also feel very reassured by the fact that Europe is rushing to help Ukraine and fill the vacuum left by our prolific supply of guns and ammo. You have a little bit of catching up to do to reorient your entire society around defense spending, but I have faith in you. Pro tip, you can get a lot of that budget from your schools. How many books do children really need?
Yeah, well, funny you should say that, because I was thinking about this the other day, and then you go on Twitter or any other hellhole like that, there's invariably people saying, Americans, let's be honest, saying, I don't think, why are we spending all this money in Europe anyway? And I get it. But part of the problem is Europe has a bit of history when it comes to wars. And when Europe has a war, it doesn't stay in Europe. It has a way to
There
sort
is
of
this definite spillover of European wars. Yes, we have noticed that.
Because you guys have been involved in both world wars. I mean, as I say, eventually, but it tends to drag you in. You sitting at home going, we'll just leave it for a bit. They'll sort themselves out. It doesn't tend to work. That's due to a lot of different things. Obviously, it's fairly well. We have very clear territories and stuff. We have a lot of resources, and we're fairly heavily populated, and we're all a bit too madly patriotic. But anyway, as far as the budget, yes, we're all arming ourselves. As far as the budget goes, don't worry about the schools or anything like that, because what we've done is we slashed overseas funding. So take that, people that aren't us.
That's right. You're getting it down already. That's exactly what we're doing. It's working great. Now, Matt, while we are handing out tips on the economy, I have another extremely hot tip for you. I know that you must miss the heady, wild days of Liz Trussian pound tanking. I know that you are dying to see a line on a graph just absolutely crash. And you can have what you want. All you have to do is start a little trade war. You ready
Yeah,
for
I
that?
see Trump's throwing out tariffs from the White House like they were fascist fighting presidents.
Yes, that man loves a good tariff. So let's take a quick look at this graph. And this is the GDP growth forecast for the quarter. And you can see here, right after Trump announced his latest round of tariffs, how the line just goes straight down. And is it a coincidence that that line is the same color of lettuce? I don't think so.
Yeah, it's when it goes from green to brown that's a bad sign.
Exactly, exactly. That's when you know it's time to switch prime ministers. Now, I know that you guys over there have GB News, and we have Fox News over here, which is basically the same thing as Russian state media at this point. And here is a video of Trump on Fox News talking about his little trade war. And if you look down here in the corner, you can see as he's talking, he is tanking the stock market in real time. You can just see the numbers just going down. Now, that is very impressive. Somewhere Liz Truss is lettuce green with envy over that.
Yeah, what you want is somebody holding up a board like that and then going other way up, and you go,
Yeah.
see, we're doing really well. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly.
I mean, the connections with Liz Truss are rather obvious there, but can he beat 49 days in office? I mean, that's the question. How long has he been in?
6 weeks now. I'd love it if the answer to that was no, but he's only got a few more days until he beats her storied tenure.
Tenure. It wasn't even a 1 year.
You're really bringing it today, Matt.
Thank you very much. Yeah, the pun work is off the scale.
Now, Matt, there is another story that you may not have heard about, and it is about our First Lady, Melania Trump, who was in Washington this week to lobby for a bill banning revenge and deepfake porn, all things that we agree with her on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, good on her, to be fair. Yeah.
Yes. Now, if you will recall, the First Lady during Trump's last term launched this campaign against bullying and cyberbullying called Be Best. And in her remarks this time, she said that we needed to combat, quote, mean-spirited and hurtful online behavior. Just going to say that there's someone who has not gotten that memo. Spoiler alert, it's her husband. And so I thought that you and I could play a little game where I give you one of Trump's holiday messages, and you try to tell me which holiday this corresponds to. Are you up for that?
Okay, let's give it a go. So I'm supposed to say where the destination is, where they've gone to.
No, this is so Trump, when he sends out holiday greetings on Truth Social, he briefly mentions the holiday and then things kind of go sideways after that. So I'm going to tell you the sideways part, and I want you to tell me which holiday you think that this post on Truth Social is about. Does that make sense?
I don't know that many American holidays, I mean, apart from the obvious one. But anyway, yes, let's crack on.
These will be mostly shared holidays. Okay. First one, holiday greeting, omitted, to be filled in by you, to the radical left lunatics who are constantly trying to obstruct our court system and our elections. Which holiday do you think that one best speaks to?
Easter.
Easter, no, that was actually Christmas of last year.
I was going to say Christmas because I thought, no, that's too on the nose, right? For that whole kind of, yeah. Wow.
Oh, we're getting a whole lot of two on the nose lately over here in America. All right, here is the next one. I refuse to wish, holiday greeting, to those lucky souls, but instead will say go to hell. Which holiday would you tell someone to go to hell on?
See, I want to say Easter on that one. Was that Easter?
That was also Christmas of last year. Those both
You
came
got me
out in
right.
the same day.
Wow.
So he did a lot of truth socialing on Christmas Day, and he had a lot of things to say, all of which were extremely festive. Okay, let's try this one. This one is in all caps. Okay, so
Aren't
if
they
that
all?
gives you any hints, every bit of this is in all caps. Holiday greeting to all, including crooked and corrupt prosecutors and judges that are doing everything possible to interfere with the presidential election of 2024 and put me in prison, including those many people that I completely and totally despise because they want to destroy America, a now failing nation. Which festive holiday do you think that one is from?
That sounds very. If we're doing on the nose stuff, that sounds very July 4th.
July 4th. That one actually was Easter. That one was the one
The
that was
one
from
where I
Easter.
didn't do it.
The
By the
Lord
way,
is risen, and we are tweeting in all caps.
by the way,
That
there's a letter that you can get over here in the UK. You might be able to get in the States as well, but there's a letter which you write to somebody that obviously you despise or you hate or something. The front of it has got Jesus loves you, and there's a person praying like this. You open it up and it says everyone else thinks you're a cunt.
I got to get my hands on some of those. There are a number of elected officials that needs to go to their mailbox. If you have a link, please send it to me.
I would
Okay.
say I'll get it for your next birthday, but totally inappropriate. So absolutely
Yes.
not.
Yes.
Before we go, and I appreciate it's been a tough
Wait. Can
one
I
for
give
you,
you?
Andrea,
Can I
but
give you one last one here?
yeah, I mean,
This
how
is
many
an
times can
easy
you
one.
apologise on behalf of your country when there's 300 million of you, and yet you have no control over any one of them except even JD Vance, right? I'm guessing the JD stands for giant dick. So,
Yes. Yes.
have you seen the latest of what he said about the UK?
Oh God, I can't imagine. Apologies in advance for whatever it is, but what did he say?
The important thing is that both France and Britain, very much in a World War II sort of remake, have both pledged like troops on the ground for Ukraine. And he's turned around and says, "Well, if you give us all these minerals and stuff, that's if you invest in America's financial upside, and you won't need 20,000 troops from some random country." Which if people are like, well, hang on a minute, that's right, who haven't fought a war in 30 to 40 years. Now, this has got, as you can imagine, quite a few people's backs up. A, because we're
Right.
not, we're a bit random, to be fair, but that's, it's our randomness that's made us lovable, I like to think. But it's, when he says, oh, yeah, I didn't mention the UK. Well, only the UK and France have pledged troops. And then he said, well, I didn't mention, and only in fact the UK has pledged 20,000. So he wasn't talking about the UK. Who the bloody hell was he talking about? Pratt. Anyway, yes. So in fact, Keir Starmer's gone out of his way at Prime Minister's question today, tomorrow, whatever it's going to be, of reading out the name of some 18 British soldiers who were killed 13 and 18 years ago to the day in Iraq and Afghanistan, respectively. And the whole House of Commons has been united by this, with one exception. Andrea, can you name the MP who you think has sort of refused to condemn him, shall we say?
I'm gonna get my number one guess is Nigel Farage. Number two is Jacob Rees-Mogg. It's got to be one of those two, right?
Well, not forgetting the fact that Jacob Rees-Mogg is no longer an MP.
Which is terrible. I'm gonna miss his pretty face.
And I still can't get over it. It's not Nigel Farage. Actually, Nigel Farage has been another that's turned around and said, no, he's Ron, which is which is quite something for Farage.
Really?
Yeah, he's really kicked off about this.
Huh.
There is some, and I think he's realised as well that it's the same for all countries. You don't shit on your troops. For the
Right.
people that go out there and fight and whatever for your country, those are the people that you kind of leave alone. Second
Right.
behind them are pensioners. You know what I mean? And then you
Yes.
sort of nurses, doctors, that sort of thing. The top of the list is troops. You don't crap on the troops.
Right.
Anyway, it's Kemi Badenoch.
Ah, that makes sense. Yes.
Because she's known Vance for about, I don't know, decade or something.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Wherever did they meet?
Yes, you got to wonder about that, haven't you? So yes, There we go. She's turned around and said, I think we're making a mountain out of a molehill. It's like, you're not going to last till Christmas. You really aren't. I'm amazed you've lasted this far. It's quite the kind of, it's only because of the fact that the Tories have gone through a ton of leaders. She is hugely unpopular, even against Starmer. And Starmer's the one in power. So you think being in the opposition, you can promise the world and stuff and everybody will lap it up. But yeah, if she lasts till the summer, that'll be a minor miracle.
Well, it sounds like you guys maybe have slightly longer memories than the rest of us do. So good for you for that.
Oh, but if she does go, watch out. Could be a return of a certain Britain Trump, maybe.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, honestly, let's get Bojo back in the mix. We're getting that era, back into office. I'm sure he and Trump would have a delightful time together. Bojo's been very quiet lately, it seems like. So, give you some content for the channel. How about that?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
All right, well, that wraps up this week's episode. We are going to be off next week to try and take a break from imbibing the news. I definitely think going to a mountaintop and not thinking about the news will be therapeutic. And I have apparently a lot of apology cards to write to other countries. But we are going to be back the week after that to discuss whatever fresh hell has broken out then. In the meantime, head on over to Matt's channel at The Interesting Times. Handle is right down there. And subscribe to this channel to make sure you never miss our pretty faces. Till next time, good luck. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.